Hello, welcome to another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy Podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz. Welcome. And today I'm eagerly awaiting a great conversation with Bradley Scoggins. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking time to talk with me today and share your expertise. Bradley Scoggins is a Senior Director of Sales and Owner Relations at Charter Senior Living. So, Brad, tell us about, for those that don't know, which may be few and far between, about Charter Senior Living.
Well, Julie, first of all, thank you for having me this morning, this afternoon. Listen, I get the privilege to brag about the organization that I call home a lot, and I would tell you, we're culture first, family first. Our founder and co-founder Kim and Kevin Benema started our organization. This year will actually be our 10th year anniversary. So we're really proud of that. When I started. Little over 5 years ago, we've had about 17, 19 communities. And this year we're looking to have and operationally about 72 communities, all kind of west east of the Mississippi. And then we have a gorgeous community that's located in Sioux City, Iowa. It's kind of by itself a little bit. But just a company that is people first. I think you hear the word culture a lot, right? I hear it all the time. I see posts, and I really feel that culture you can't really talk about it until you live it, till you breathe it, till you interact, and it inspires and motivates you. And I would tell you that's something that Charter is known for in the industry and in the space. I think we're resident first, we're associate first. And listen, our executive team says it all the time. We're not perfect, but we're really good at what we do. So just had the privilege of being a part of this growing organization, and seeing all the amazing lives we enhance the human spirit, and the things we're doing for the greatest generation and older adults.
I love it. Wow. So 17 or 18 communities when you joined the team about 5 years ago, and now 72 or soon to be 72. That is tremendous growth.
Yeah, it really is, Julie. And I think, aligning ourselves with great partners, right? And being strategic and methodical about our growth. A lot of our communities are clustered. So we're able to give some really good regional support. We're in these markets, and we build trust, and we're really able to see occupancy grow, and continuing to work through our processes and continuing to leverage our brand. And our brand is growing. Our communities are growing, and I think that's evident of our success and our continued growth. Goes back to what I said earlier, just people are resident first. If you do the right thing, right, you're always going to win, right? Might take a little bit of time to get there, right?
Mhm.
But we continue to try to do the right thing every day.
Now, if you're led by that, doing the right thing, you really, like you said, no one's perfect. Who is? But that you really are right down the right path.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
completely relate. That is our intention of doing the right thing, doing the kind thing. You talk about resident associate first. It sounds like an extremely strong culture, and thus the growth, and obviously the logistics. The business needs to support the culture and your mission. Let's talk about where business really starts is revenue. We all need revenue to run a business, thus sales. And selling senior living isn't easy. You know that. Uh, Having I don't want to say great people, because there are loads and loads and loads of great people that serve senior living. So I'm not going to say great people, but salespeople who are really, dedicated sales. They understand the mechanics, but also, really importantly to senior living, the people side, the empathy side, and the importance of the connection, and the work, the loving work it really that goes into on nurturing prospects throughout their decision making process. Can I ask you, let's talk about Let's guess what? Sales and
Do
people.
it.
All right. So thinking about, and you do acquisitions and you also do new construction, right?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, when you're acquiring a community or an operator acquires that's a new team to them per se, and then maybe, established in another organization or a new build, you're creating or selecting, if you will, or hiring your own sales team from from the ground up, literally. Talk to me about like the first 30 days. So what's most important in putting that foundation together for either and both, new to you sales team.
Okay. Listen, great question. I think from the acquisition side, change is not easy. Um, you have residents who have called this community home. You've got staff, and associates who have been there and been shoulder to shoulder with residents, right? And I always hear it a lot, older adults don't like change. Well, guess what? Really nobody does, right? So I think that the very first piece is just really that transition, right? From operator to operator, right? To make sure that we're not letting the community feel it. And have as minimal interruption to the daily lives of the residents and the community. I think that's first and foremost critical. And then I think, we really try to go into communities that we acquire, culture first again, right? Going in there, together, with one mission, one vision, right? We're a team, right? We all have the same vision. We got the same mission, and really, really try to take that time to connect. I think connection, right, is the key to success in really any industry, but especially an industry that's people driven, right? We know that, the people make the community. You can feel a community that's running on all systems, right? And it's infectious. So I think the first biggest piece is for us to make sure that handoff goes seamlessly. And we've got an amazing team that does, that transition and what that looks like. And then I think we go in there for about a week. Everyone from our CEO, our COO, we go in there as a team and united. And I think just hearing what are they struggling with, right? What do they want to see in that new, operator, right? And I think the most important thing is keeping your word, right? This is a new relationship, right?
Yeah.
And of course we go 90 miles per hour. But sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. And I think, going in there and just spending that time associate first, because if your associates are happy, they're not, interrupted by the transition, your residents won't feel it either. Right. And then it goes down from communication to families, communication to vendors, and all of that stuff in the background. But
Yeah.
that very first 30 days I really see it as an opportunity for us. And dare I say the word love, right? But I think it's a place where we can show compassion, where we can
Hmm.
show love, we can show empathy, and really let them experience what it's like to be a part of the charter family.
Hmm.
I think that's, it's really resident first, right? On the front end of those first 30-day transition, resident and associate first. Now, when we're talking about new developments, that's a little different. I do have the privilege to support most of Charter's new developments. We're actually I was at a community in Winder, Georgia, not too long ago. Shout out DMK Development. There you go. There's a little plug. But we were at the community and we just hired a director of sales and marketing and an executive director. So we have our sales professional, we have our operator leadership there. The really big thing that I've seen with new developments and have them, blossom, is really having a team that's connected to the market. Right.
Hmm.
I think that's important, right? Because you're selling blue sky,
Yeah.
right? And for anyone that has never, has never done it, right? It's not as easy as it looks, right? You got renderings, you got
Not,
whole sold boards, you got that
yeah.
stuff, right? But you've got to be able to know, listen, where can we really put a strong footnote in for brand recognition, right? Because we're doing brand awareness. We're trying to get the market used to the charter name, the charter brand. But also, really trying to network and create long-lasting relationships with, you know, medical, non-medical, leaders of faith, nonprofit, everyone that fits into that community circle that does business in that market. So I think the most important thing is getting the team on the ground, making sure that the systems and all of that stuff is dialed in, but making sure they already have relationships. And if not, how can we foster those relationships as quickly as possible? Because like everything else, there is a ramp up goal. Each month
Mhm.
we're expecting this many deposits. And our goal is really just to, we can teach, we can almost teach everyone how to do systems and this stuff, right? The main thing that I really look for a sales professional and a new development is someone with drive, right?
Mhm.
That's the number one thing I'm
Yeah,
looking for. Because you've
yeah,
got to have that competitiveness, that energy,
yeah.
that
I
drive
do.
to really get out there and make a difference. So I think, the first 30 days for both are different. But I think as long as we're culture forward, right? And we work our plan, right? It's got a proven track record of success for us.
Mhm.
As we continue to open and operate communities here on the east side of the country.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a plan, SOP, process systems, you can't scale. You can't be successful in one business, one community, let alone 10, 20, 72. You mentioned a couple of things, trust. So some of the things, Brad, as you were talking, I jotted down some key words. And as you were talking, I couldn't help but think the things you were saying around, where dare you say, demonstrating, love and the overreaching umbrella under that, love is like in business. Ooh, do we really say that word? But if you don't love what you do and really, love our residents, I totally relate to that word, but trust. Right. So you and the team, leadership team, you're beginning those trusting relate to build that trust. How is that? Well, keeping your word. I couldn't help but think, well, aren't those the same? Are you demonstrating what the expectations would be for the salesperson? They're demonstrating, they're trying to build trust with their prospects, demonstrating their love, right, for what they do, and that for the person in front of them or their best intention, and keeping their word. Um, and that really resonated with me, and that's how culture is like how we're doing a couple presentations this quarter on differentiation, right? And
Mhm.
it's not always about we have a balcony or we have a pool or we have X and Z in the largest walk-in closet. It's about culture, and it's not something you can touch, it's feel. So how is that built? And it's built by people and demonstrating who we are, and reinforcing drive, and shifting over to drive. I love that. I love you mentioned this because it's not something that is talked, in my opinion, enough. Discipline, drive. In sales positions, we need someone who's
Mhm.
driven for forward movement. If you don't have a driver in your car, right? I know there's driverless car, but a driver on the bus, right? What I would assume you would look for that quality in not only new construction, new, blue sky, but also in your existing, the teams that you're acquiring.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly correct. And listen, as we hire and we try to scout out the best talent that we can find, sometimes everyone kind of goes through the same process, right? You get the resume, schedule your interviews, you call your references. I think a lot of that time is really not about the job, right? It's not about the task, right? I want to know more about you as a human being. right? It goes back to what a sales coach, a friend of mine, always tells me. The day that granite countertops provides care, that's the day everybody will have granite countertops,
Mhm.
right? And that resonates with me, right? And that goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? Is listen, at the end of the day, a lot of the communities have a lot of the same stuff, right? You got your movie theater, your restaurant, your stuff, right? And your points of difference is always going to be your people, right? It's always going to be the people who provide that exceptional care and the people that, have servant hearts. But I really found, how I can really pick out really driven individuals by doing more peer-to-peer interviews. I'll give you an example. I had the privilege of leading the sales specialist team here at Charter. And those, as well as I do, that is one of the hardest roles,
Mhm.
right? Of, 10 on, 4 off, of, being in those communities. You don't go to the communities that are 100% and everything's great. But uh, I will not give an offer to a sales specialist without the whole sales specialist team interviewing and all of them saying they would want to move forward with this person on their team, right? I just won't do it because collectively our strength is this group, right?
Mhm.
That's how we move mountains, right? That's how we pioneer and revision what does senior living look like now that the greatest generation, right, is not going to be the same as the baby boomers, right? It's going to be different, right? And I think what has helped me spot talent with folks who are driven is really getting additional feedback from 5 or 6 professionals that I trust, that I know only want the best for our organization and our team. And these professionals are how I feel are the best of the best, right?
Mhm.
So really, I really see bringing in the folks that that really highlight that exact candidate you're looking for, driven, right, positive, right, will do the work, and they really kind of help me weed out folks that maybe won't be a great cultural fit, but also won't fit what we're looking to do as an organization.
Mhm. That's it. It's a good point, interesting point. And I would say drive is part of a culture, right? If
Mhm.
you're, I know in my business, if we're not driven, yes, kind, honest, hardworking, love what you do, forthright, all those things, but if we're not driven, to earn business, and that's what really the mindset and to reinforce that mindset that we truly are earning business every day. We're earning our residents' business. I'm earning, our clients' business. We're earning our associates' business. That they are the business of showing up, to work. Drive has to be part of that. And can I ask you, that we all in this business and in this vertical senior living we love so much, turnover, especially in sales, is extraordinarily high.
Mhm.
And I'm curious around, and sometimes it's necessary, right? Turnover, if it's someone that just isn't that it is that right seat, right person, run the right seat. No, we're doing a disservice to everyone. Can you give us an idea of like what in maybe that initial 30 days, and of course we give people chance, it's not like 30 days and out, but what are some things that are like red flags, right? So because we're often asked too to support and bring in but where are some red flags for me in that initial 30, 45 days? What are some for you?
Well, I think the first one that comes up is follow up, right? So if you're not going to follow up with me, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to follow up with the people who trust you to guide them to that solution,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that's one thing that I really keep an eye on, right? Is, how long does it take to respond, right? And are we following up with those pieces? And you know, I think people leave jobs because, what fills their cup, right? Whatever fills that individual's cup, right? That's what you have to, I don't want to say the word leverage, but I want to say that's what you have to add into their individual development plan, or that's what you need to add to what does that next 7, 14, 30-day, touch point look like, right? So I would say, lack of follow-up is something that's a big red flag for me. I think we do what we call rally calls, where once a week we get on the phone, and it's not about talking about how many move-ins you're getting or how many tours you got. It's tell me an experience this week, or what you plan on doing to positively impact an older adult's life, right? Because if you lead through your mission, right, then ultimately we're going to do the right stuff, right? And I'll notice that folks that usually don't last as long, in my bubble, are folks that I can feel the negative energy, right? I can feel the closeness, right? The closeness of it, and I just think, listen, all I really ask for is just positive. Be positive, right? Think about doing stuff that you never done before, right? But
Mhm.
also, listen, we're hiring professionals, that I expect them to bring something to the table as well, right? So I think when we're talking about what does that first 30-day look like with a new hire, and we're getting our onboarding strategy together, and we're really, getting their mentor and getting these things in place, I think one big thing that I look for is their feedback, right? And what have you noticed in the market, right? And it goes back to one of those old interviewing tricks that, if I ask someone a question, and if at the end of the interview, when I ask you, hey, do you have any questions for me, or
Yeah.
you got to be curious,
Yeah.
right? And salespeople that aren't curious,
Yeah.
I tend not to work out in my
I would
experience,
agree.
right?
I
So
would
I
agree.
want inquisitiveness. I want
Yeah.
someone that wants to do better, and really can bring good feedback to the market, to me, and to their executive director as well.
I would agree 100%. Any questions or what questions or what else do you know? Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Mhm.
I think, oh, okay. Like, that it's an orange, bright orange flag.
Right. And
If
then
that,
sometimes, Julie, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'll say, listen, this interview is not going to go any further unless you give me a question. Right. I mean, if I have to pull it out of you, right?
right, exactly. Like,
I
really?
want something, please.
Anything. To come up with something, right? I would agree too on, something you reinforce, and I said it this morning actually to one of my team. It's that how, and she uses a how can I make this work mindset. It's a mind, which is the mindset that works well with me. How do we make this work? Now, it's not, we all know, we don't control the actions of other people. There are things that we don't, there's loads of things we don't have control of. But with that mindset of how, that's a yes mindset. Doesn't mean you get a yes all the time. Doesn't mean you should wait all the time. It's a, all right, how just that the wheels are turning, not the arms are crossed and well, nobody moves. It's in Boston. No, well, no, it's snowing again today, or no one moves in February and hands are up and going like this. It's not going to work. Yeah, okay, there's 30 inches of snow and people aren't going to be driving. We all know that. But how do you make that work? What movement forward? How do you show the love? How do you show them? How do you do the communications? That mindset moves, thus she does,
Mhm.
moves people, moves the engine continues to run, and
Yep.
you just shared a win today. And I'm like, you have that mindset, that we absolutely need to have. And you can't control other people's attitudes and mindset. And that's not to say we don't have a bad day, but I would agree with you. And I would just reinforce anyone listening that I so appreciate the support and the culture, really senior living, kind of an overreaching culture of supporting and wanting to see people succeed and giving opportunities and chance. That balancing that with that business mindset, that if someone is demonstrating that their arms are crossed,
Mhm.
theoretically or literally, it's just not it's just not going to work. because you
Yeah.
have to
But
have the drive. You have to have that. Someone's like sitting back and going like this. Oh my gosh, this job's too hard. It's too hard to
and a
start.
lot of times we're our own worst enemies, right? We get in our own way, right?
Yeah,
When we don't
absolutely.
have that mindset,
Yeah,
right? And
100%. And
you know,
we all have days, we all kind of like, "Ugh," or maybe feel a little sorry for ourselves, or things just aren't going well. Or, you've had a couple of weeks like that. It's that reset, and then being supported or having an opportunity to just talk to someone without that feeling like we're trying to solve anything at this moment. I just need to say this. I need to not vent necessarily, but just unburden and let you know what's in my heart or what's on my, what's in my way, if you will. Just let me and you. I hear you, understand. Let's talk about that. And if you don't have that support, and if you do feel like you're an island personally or professionally, boy, that's not going to work
no,
either, right?
it's not. You definitely don't have the foundation for success at that
Right,
point.
exactly, exactly. Well, it sounds to me that your team, I know Jane, Kevin, like you mentioned, your CEO, and you really embrace not only words on the wall, but it's actions in life, and that is driven by intention and drive, what drives you, and you all have that common drive to, like you mentioned, residents and associates first. How can you be go wrong, and then having the business to support that and the process and the business and the drive to do that. No wonder you've all gone from from zero, right? You're 10 years ago. I remember going into my the first charter building that I visited, and it was in Atlanta, and I would say that was about 10 years ago. It was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now 72 communities. Um, Way to go. Way to go, Kevin. Way to go, you all. Way to go, Kevin. Way to go, the entire team. And Brad, I'm sure they are very, very glad that you came on board 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I think, I'm the lucky one, right? I think, it's a large industry, but a small industry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And just the to be able to work with Kevin, Jane, right? To open up, right? Just new ways to look at stuff, right?
yeah,
Because I think every one of our executives, right, that they were director of sales and marketing, right? They were executive directors, and I think it's really hard to motivate, inspire, right, and tell it and really lead a group of folks if you've never put the work in, right, or if you've never done it, right. And I think that's one thing about charter that I appreciate. No one's going to ask me something that my executive team haven't done, right, or has not done.
yeah.
It's an amazing organization, and the work that we all do is so important, right? But just get a chance to have some fun along the way.
I love it. Bradley Scoggins, Brad or Bradley, depends on your
Depending
mood.
on the day, right?
Senior Director, Sales and Owner Relations, Charter Senior Living. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me, to be accompany people on their drive to and from work. Thank you all for listening to the Grow Your Occupancy podcast and for your contributions to this space that we all love. And I do dare say that, Brad, that we all love. I'm
I love
Julie
it.
Podewitz, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks again, Brad.
Thanks, Julie.